Yeah, nice one. So yeah, we're gonna give you a quick run through of a track that we've recently released on Shogun Audio. It's called Free C Roller, and it's slightly more heavier than our usual territory. So hopefully, there's going to be some interesting aspects to kind of cover with regards to our techniques and little tips and tricks, I guess. And yeah, we'll go through each aspect of the track individually, and then maybe look at kind of finalizing the whole tune at the end and mastering techniques, things like that. So I guess as a tune, it's pretty kind of minimal, kind of steppy drums with a bit of an aggressive bass line, which is that's where we usually don't enter that territory. So we've kind of kept it pretty stripped back and let the music and the drum and the bass do the talking. So I guess the first place to start is the drums. So should we just run those, see what they sound like?
Yeah, so we've actually bounced them down. So the actual drums in this project are actually here. We bounced them down because I think we ran them through some external hardware. But the group's still here, so we can go through each individual element. But I'll just quickly play the drums on their own. So yeah, as Tom said, pretty simple, very steppy, very punchy, like big on like just very strong transient drums, basically. But yeah, there's actually not that much involved in them. So we'll start, I guess, from the kick. I think, yeah, some solo there. It's quite a toppy, punchy kick, and I guess that was probably. I think you put this one in, Thomas. It's probably just to cut through the mix a bit more, right?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, the actual kick sound itself, the low end is just real kind of basic, um, punchy kick, not much to it at all. And the little hi hat on top, again, super short, just adds a little top end to help it cut through, and then just saturating both those together, it kind of squashes it a bit, and yeah, it sounds quite nice. And rolled off the lows. Um, yeah, I think you made the point that this is quite an old project. We're still using Pro Q2, but still sounds good.
Cool. And then onto the snare. It's like three layers to the snare. And I guess a lot of people would kind of people who kind of build their snares from like scratch, using like FM and whatever, tend to do this as well. But we've kind of done it with samples, just like using different sounds to construct different parts of an actual snare drum. Um, so yeah, I guess going through the three layers, we've got this Zen snare, more of a clap. Not much to say on this one really. There's not even any EQ on it. Super short, punchy. And then there's this kind of neuro snare sample, which is definitely providing the majority of the transient. We've actually used that in liquid tunes as well, haven't we?
Yeah, for sure. It just helps to cut through the mix really. Like probably won't hear it kind of stick out necessarily as its own element, but it just provides support to the rest of the parts of the snare, I guess.
Yeah. And then this is a little kind of slightly weirder top layer, which is a percussive sound. And I guess that's just to give it a bit more character. Again, help it cut through a bit more. And I guess on their right, all together, sorry, they sound like this.
Yeah, I mean, with that snare, it's pretty kind of functional in a way. There's not too much character to it. It's not too exciting, but on like a club system, it does cut through nicely. And when sort of making that kind of snare group, if you like, it's purely trial and error. We'll always go for sort of body snare sample, kind of to help it hit nicely, and then just layer different top parts on it to give it more texture and more interest, I guess. But that one is pretty bog standard, to be fair.
Yeah. And literally just an EQ on there as well, which has actually been rolled off quite aggressively at 229 hertz. But yeah, clearly works for the mix. And then just got some hats and percussive sounds really to fill in the gaps. So let's play these on their own. Really simple pattern. 16th hats with a little open hi hat for an accent. Let's see what processing's on here. Literally zero processing on here as well. A lot of the processing, to be fair, for this drum group is on the actual group, which we'll go through as well. But yeah, like each individual element's pretty bog standard.
Yeah, I guess it's personal preference as well that we do quite a lot of our drum programming in MIDI using Ableton's drum rack. I personally find it just a bit easier to go into the kind of envelope shaping element of the sound versus, you know, putting curves into audio files in the kind of arrangement view. Just gives a bit more flexibility, a lot easier to tweak, and yeah, just personal preference on that one, I guess.
Yeah. And then there's like quarter note hats here as well. This one is more for some width. There's a hat effect, which we can't see because this is an old version of it, which is basically creating a bit of stereo width. I guess, again, just for interest, when you've got so much space in a track with like drums, like not like without breaks and stuff, you've got a lot more space. It's a good idea to kind of use kind of spatial effects to keep things interesting. So yeah, I guess that's why we did that here as well. And then the last bit is just a little drum roll, I think, which happens kind of in some odd places. Yeah, so it's like a cut from a break. And if I play it all together in context, you hear how it kind of drives the beat forward. Yeah, so it kind of gives it that kind of offbeat, steppy feel, I guess, which again just kind of stops it from being a bog standard drum pattern.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think it's literally all cut from the same break. We've literally just.
I was going to say we've taken different bits of the break and just kind of scattered them across that 8-bar section. Sorry, keeps it rolling, but just adds a bit of interest to the ear, I guess, with the variation that it brings.
And speaking of variation, we do the classic minimal drum and bass thing of adding a kind of double time hat in after 8 or 16. This one actually has come from a house pack, I think, which we use quite a lot of, right?
Yeah, I think it's a Kink sample pack. So if you haven't heard of him, he's kind of like a bit of a wizard when it comes to live performances, I guess. And dropped a sample pack recently, and there's a lot of nice percussion in there. And with like house, like inherently there's more groove to the kind of tracks they make. So a lot of the samples tend to have a lot more character to them than say drum and bass samples. So chuck that in there, just to kind of help push it along, really. And as I say, it's got quite a nice feel to it. So yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, and then we've added after 32 bars, we've added another shaker just to kind of add a bit more energy into the pattern, which is just literally another double time shaker. But this one's got a bit of swing on it, I think. Yeah, so we use Ableton's groove pools quite a lot. I mean, yeah, just adding swing to drums is generally, you know, a done thing just to make things feel a bit more human, a bit more groovy. And yeah, we just added 61% swing to this hat, which makes it kind of sit a little bit behind the drums, like behind the main beat, if I play it all together. So it's coming a bit late, which just kind of gives it a bit more groove. And I think that's all we've done to it. Yeah, so no other processing, but yeah, just a swung hat, which keeps things funky. And then we've also got a ride cymbal, or I think it's a ride cymbal. Or it's kind of like a weird percussive bell sound that comes in, which I think is pitched really far down.
Yeah, it's a weird sound, but kind of works in the context of the tune. Yeah, minus 27.
Minus 27, should never see a number that low before. But again, on its own, it sounds like a sleigh bell. In the context of the drums, it's like super wide sound. It adds a nice little quality on top of it as well. Again, just keeping things interesting to the listener.
Yeah, sure. I think at this point as well, if you just look at the kind of arrangement of those drum sounds in the track, like every 8, something happens in the drums, whether that's adding a new sound or taking one out. And with tunes like this, where it's kind of quite minimal and it's quite bass focused, just those little subtle changes can help really drive the energy of the track and keep it interesting instead of just having the same loop. And we have not done anything like super outrageous there. It's just adding like a little shake or a ride every 8 or taking it out every 8 just to keep rolling.
Yeah, subtle variations are really the key with this sort of music, I think. So yeah, and then I guess where most of the kind of magic happens in this drum group is in the processing. So I'm just going to turn all of it off. You can hear what it sounds like. That's everything off. It's everything back on. So obviously it's like night and day. And I guess even if you ignore the gain level changes, it's like it's a bit more distorted, it's way more saturated. The transients are hitting harder. And yeah, like we do a lot of our drums, yeah, don't sound good until we put all the processing on the group. So I guess we can go through each individual effect. And then something you'll notice is that for the most part, each plugin is doing a little bit of the work, and it's kind of the cumulative effect of all of the plugins that makes it sound pretty good. I'm probably about to contradict myself now by saying we've added 13 decibels of gain on the saturator, which is obviously beefing the drums up initially. So we'll just listen to it with and without. Kind of kind of like saturating the mids and the lows of the drums there. And then we've added riff distortion at 34% wet, and it's just literally got a wavefold and a wave shape on it. There's nothing else on there, so it's just a sine wave, wavefold, and a soft wave shape. That one's really just bringing out a bit more of that like kind of snare skin like slap on the snare. Like that's where you can really hear this effect doing most of the work. So this one's quite subtle. And then we've got our trusty friend virtual mix rack, which gets used on every single project. And this preset beat enhancer, I think, gets used quite a lot as well. I think it was you that found this one, Tom, right?
Yeah. I can't remember where I saw it, but it does what it says in the tin, really. Beat enhancer, adds real nice kind of overall process into the sound, and that revival plugin second from the end adds a lot of nice tops. Actually, I mean, sometimes can get a bit over the top, but in this instance it works really nicely. It's a very, very clever plugin.
Yeah, so it adds a lot of like richness to the tops, and it more often than not manages to do it without adding too much like resonance as well, like unwanted resonance. It's pretty impressive. So yeah, we just kind of tweak this preset to taste basically for a lot of our drums. And then we've got a compressor, which has got quite an aggressive threshold in it, but it is, where's the dry wet? I always lose it on this one.
Near the decibels at the bottom right.
Oh yeah, so it's on 44%. So basically, use pretty much parallel. Well, yeah, it says parallel compression at the top. So this is obviously when you have such an aggressive compressor on 50% dry wet, what you get is kind of a combination of the kind of gain reduction or the dynamic range reduction that you're looking for by having such an aggressive setting on your compressor, but also because it's letting through half of the dry signal, you're still maintaining quite a lot of the transients, so the punch of the drums remains whilst the overall volume becomes more uniform. So for things like this, where dynamics aren't that important because it's really just a club tune to slap you in the face, then it's a great way to achieve that. Basically get louder, more uniform drums while still having lots of punch.
I guess that's kind of usual process we follow is kind of immediately saturate the drum group at the start, maybe a bit of distortion, and then come in with the virtual mix rack and a bit of compression, and then depending on how fruity we're feeling, might distort it again, which in this case we've done.
Yeah, big time with this Arturia Culture Vulture clone. This Arturia bundle is really good. This is the Arturia FX bundle. It's got loads of cool stuff in it, and yeah, this is basically a clone of a Culture Vulture, which is like a really aggressive kind of distortion, like kind of tube compression and distortion unit. And you can hear on this one, it's doing quite a lot to the low end. I'll just play from here. That's with it on. Off, so it's really, really distorting, like the kick drum in particular, you can hear it. I mean, that might be too much for some people, but I think in the context of this tune, it sounds really good. Wouldn't normally distort things this much, but yeah, it just kind of works with this tune. I think you just kind of need it to be a bit rags. So yeah, that's what we did. And then I'm pretty sure this ozone limit is not actually doing anything. I'll just
I think we lost some settings on that one at some point, but I think they were doing a bit of stereo imaging.
Yeah. It's really not doing anything now, so we can ignore that. And then the filter's just automated high pass. Where is it? Yeah, so kind of towards the drop and towards some of the breakdowns, we just filter it up for dramatic effect, basically. But it's not actually doing anything to the sound other than filtering it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
think it's
so
pretty clear from like that drum group that the group processing is key to get a nice sound with these drums. And if you're messing around with it, just don't be afraid to kind of reorder the plugins on the group, like get proper experimental with how you're ordering things. But there's no rule to follow in terms of what kind of processing comes first and last. Just mess about with it and see what sounds you come up with in that way. Definitely recommend doing that.
mm. So yeah, as I mentioned before, we bounce it down. We don't always do this, but in this instance, again, because of the type of track it is, we bounced it down and then ran it again through some processing from the electron analog heat. I think it was just doing a more subtle bit of compression on there, and then also we kind of rebounced the drums and kind of resampled them for the intro as well. So we use this really cool plugin called Hysteresis to create these really effective drums. I think it's this. Is it this one? Let's play it. Okay, so that's also from Hysteresis, and then
I think it's the
one here, isn't this? Is the one? Yeah, this one's looking.
Audio 22.
And then this. So all of these sounds are actually from the drum group, and then just we've used this plugin Hysteresis, which I'll just put up on an empty channel, maybe. But let's do this just to show you what it can do. So a free plugin from Glitch Machines. Got it ages ago. I think maybe Lawrence Halogenics or someone like that recommended it to me. But yeah, it's sick. It literally just turns any source material into like a weird texture. It's just got loads of presets, so you can just go through them, and like each one will do some various weirdness. This one doesn't seem to do anything; just makes it go silent. Apparently, oh, there you go. Yeah, you kind of get the point. It's just really great for just like creative, interesting, weird textures, and just you can just put anything through it, and it sounds cool. So once you kind of start automating from wet to dry, yeah, it's kind of just a bit more fun than just doing a standard filter sweep or standard reverb build up or whatever. Yeah, it definitely offers some more interesting options, and also you can even create like really cool bass. I've created bass sounds from it, from like drum sounds originally. Like, yeah, the sound design possibilities are really endless with this plugin, and it's free. So yeah, definitely grab that. So yeah, that all of those kind of cool effects were basically resampled from the drums just using this Hysteresis plugin. So yeah, that's pretty much all to say about the drums. It's not, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So we'll move on to the bass group. I'll just quickly delete that channel.
You disappeared then.
I disappeared.
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's unstable. Still okay now?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, let me know if it freezes and I need to like re-say anything.
I was just talking about the room reverb, so I'll do that bit again.
Oh, yeah, go on.
So the only other thing on the drum group processing on the new drum group one, it's the other group down.
Yeah, it's this one.
As in on the actual project, it's new, yeah, that group. We've just got a really small send to a Valhalla room reverb, and it's really, really subtle, but it just helps add a little bit of space. Yeah, it's super quiet, but yeah, bit of width there. Again, just to add a bit more impact to the drums.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so we'll just go to the bass group next. So yeah, so we tend to like with basses, I guess a caveat, we tend to like if we're making something from a synth, we'll then tend to bounce it down to audio and then reprocess it that way. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of the original patches, but they were super simple patches. But to be honest, that's not really the interesting part. It's more about how it's been processed. But yeah, just quickly as well, we've kind of arranged this one into kind of different frequency groups. So we've got subs and mid basses both grouped off separately to each other, and then they're all running through obviously the main bass bus and after that. So should we start with the mid basses maybe?
Yeah, that's where most of the kind of sound of the bass comes from, I guess. And yeah, as John mentioned, this was bounced. I think it was a theorem patch, and it's, I mean, not too interesting from
it might be this one. I think it was basically resampled off of this one.
Yeah. So the original tune was called Jen, hence the preset name there. Yeah, I mean, with basses, we don't tend to go too heavy on kind of sound design in plugins like this. I think a lot of the processing was after the fact. But the key thing here is we use a lot of filters, a lot of resonance, just to kind of get that really kind of, it's kind of a little horny sound, isn't it? Like, it's quite a weird sound to describe. But that's all comes from resonance and then a lot of distortion after the fact. And I think from memory, we probably would have run this through Rift or something like that, and then maybe another distortion plugin, and then that again probably was bounced through analog heat, I think, in this instance. So you hit that, gives quite a nice amount of saturation, and the kind of EQ controls and the filter controls and the heat as well. You can get a lot of nice frequencies kind of enhanced through that process, which is probably where you can hear the majority of the sound come from in this instance.
Yeah, and basically every other sound then in this track, so mid bass 1, 2, 3, 4, is all from that original sound, and it's just varying levels of resampling. So this, as you can see, mid bass 4 here, it's just the same sound again with another layer of distortion on it, which sounds crazy. Yeah, this riff plugin is great. It's basically designed for drum and bass producers. Probably one of the best, if not the best, distortion plugin we've got. But yeah, again, this was just resampled from this sound. I'll just play that on its own. It's that sound there, which has just been cut out, and then made into that sound, just literally using a preset from Rift with some modified controls. And then again here, where is it? There we go. This one's actually got quite a lot happening on it, as you can see. But the original sound's that same bass patch, and then it would have been run through Shaperbox, which is a really cool like multi effects. I'll just put it up quickly. We can do it here. So Shaperbox. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Shaperbox basically is an FX plugin with just loads of different units on it, and it's just really good for like mangling sounds. Like a lot of tunes that we make, like we'll kind of start with an original bass idea, and then we'll go back in and just basically resample everything using stuff like this. And even if you just go to their presets, like this chop and gate section has loads of stuff on it. You can quickly see how you can create pretty cool sounds from it. It's like that's obviously making it sound. If you take off some of this stuff, you can kind of see where that sound came from. I can't remember the exact process I used, but it was definitely this plugin to create this choppy sound.
Yeah, I think as well what we've done with this is, like the drums, every 16 something changes, but the kind of core idea, and when we get to it, the sub kind of stays constant throughout, but these mid basses change very slightly in tone and in rhythm in some cases, and again just keeps the tune interested and kind of driving forward. And a lot of the times when we do things like that, we use a lot of filtering. So Ableton Auto Filter is probably our most used plugin. Filtering is very powerful in terms of adding variation and interest, and we've used that in this bass group a lot of the time. Even that mid bass 3 after Shaperbox or whatever, or before Shaperbox, we've automated that filter to kind of open and close. Again, just to add interest and just keep it moving.
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of automation happening here across all these different sounds. Even with Rift, we've automated when the distortions come in. As you can see here, let's just quickly play that. And it just kind of gives it, basically the goal here is just to create movement. And because there's obviously like static audio samples and it's not coming through like a synth live or whatever, you're not just like twiddling a knob to make it move. This is the way to do it basically. So yeah, just to create more interesting sounds and more interesting textures, you just have to automate a lot of different parameters. And there's no kind of fixed recipe or like procedure. It's literally all like, we made this track just for pure experimentation. I think having the right tools helps, like knowing what each plugin can do. So like we obviously use a lot of the same plugins a lot of the time, so we have a good familiarity with them, and that kind of increases your chances of creating cooler sounds. But yeah, ultimately it's still really guesswork and kind of just experimenting and kind of having fun with it.
I think if you go back and look at the older versions of his project, I think there's about what 19 or something versions was it we checked the other day.
Yeah.
And the original version probably would have just been a loop based around the kind of the first part of the drop, sorry. And then as the tune's grown, we've kind of figured out whereabouts we need to have new sounds coming in or more variation. That's when we've then resampled even further. So we didn't sit down and do all this in one go. Like the tunes naturally kind of progressed in that way. And again, as John said, it's just pure experimentation. Sometimes it goes wrong. You might end up deleting stuff, but yeah, ultimately the payoff is worth it for sure.
Yeah, there's no way like we'd be able to come up with all these ideas in one version of a track. This is kind of the nice thing about working in a duo as well, like bouncing things back and forth. You're essentially like remixing or resampling each other. So that's kind of how you kind of get to this result. And I guess if you're working kind of solo, then kind of working on a tune, kind of getting to a certain point and going on to another idea, then coming back to that tune, just so you've kind of got fresh perspective on it is a good way of doing that. So yeah, I guess don't expect it's probably better to kind of work on tracks like this in increments. Obviously, some tunes write themselves, and you can finish them in 1 or 2 sessions, but I think these sorts of ideas get better over time. So yeah, obviously keep plugging away. So yeah, I guess the kind of common theme really with these bass sounds is it all came from one sound, and literally it's just been resampled like 5 times. And that's kind of how we do most of our, like when we do heavier tracks, that's kind of how we operate across all of them really. And again, the subs, the one thing that's consistent is the sub that kind of underpins the whole track, and that doesn't actually change at all. It just loops over constantly throughout the whole tune. And the sub, I think, did you just split the frequency off from the mid bass just to isolate the sub?
I think so, yeah. There might be
There is a patch here. Hang on. Oh, yeah, okay. So this happens in parts, doesn't it? So this kind of original LFO patch, which is the kind of first hit of the phrase, is literally just a sine wave. That's just got an LFO on it. So it's really simple.
Yeah.
Any effects on it? No, any effects on it. Literally just like one oscillator from Serum.
Yeah, with subs, I guess we'd like to keep it quite simple. Maybe there's a little bit of noise on there, but overall, that's a really simple sound. If you start getting too complicated with your subs, you end up running into mixed problems. It doesn't sound great in the club. So yeah, a lot of our subs tend to be very much just a sub, for want of a better description.
It's been processed with analog heat as well. Just I guess saturated a little bit and compressed a little bit, so it sounds a bit fatter.
Yeah.
And then the kind of response part of it, again, is literally just a sine wave. It's super simple, but as Tom said, for good club music, you need those like strong fundamentals in terms of the frequency range. So you're just having a clean, powerful sub is always going to work wonders. So that's literally just.
So we've got like I guess it's a kind of call and response situation going on with this bass as well, isn't it? So you've got that first kind of LFO sub here, and then that kind of wompy thing comes back in the gaps. And again, that's a nice way of just adding interest to the listener and keeping the tune,
It also gives you more options for variation as well, because you can change like the cool part of it, you can change the response part of it, which is what we've done basically every 16 bars. Like one of those two things, if not both of those things, changes each section. So yeah, just a good way of keeping it interesting. And then we've got I think this is what's this bit? Oh yeah, so this track has a really funny arrangement in the bass because it's got this kind of really, I mean, it's just called Rago. It just kind of says it perfectly. It's like another cool I'll just play the whole thing so it makes more sense. Yeah, so I think this is probably what gives the tune the most amount of character, this sound actually, because it's like a really kind of solid roller and then literally everything cuts out for this really abrasive sound that comes out of nowhere, which is quite fun to do sometimes. This is just like, again, it's just a fun little thing, because it doesn't come in on the drop, actually. It comes in 8 bars later, so it does really unexpected sound when you kind of first hear it.
That's a similar patch to the first one, just as a much faster LFO going on there.
Yeah, Gen Z, good name.
There you go.
Yeah, and what was the other patch? It was this one here, Gen Z. And then yeah, I think is that the same patch? Yeah, I think it's variations on a theme, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, this one I think yeah, this is kind of what makes the tune maybe stand out a little bit compared to like a normal club roller. It's just got a real almost kind of jump uppy. Yeah, it just comes out of nowhere basically. The whole tune resumes. So like just a little arrangement trick there, just to keep things interesting.
Yeah.
And then is there anything else in this group? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. So all of these kind of channels that are switched off are where we've kind of had earlier versions of the bass, resampled it, but kept the original patch in case we messed it up, or the original sample. So yeah, that's why those are there, but they're not actually doing anything. And then I guess processing we didn't really talk about. So for the mid basses, there's nothing on the groups. It's mainly just EQs and shaper boxes and distortions, which I think we've been through. Actually, this mid bass three, yeah, to be fair, it's just EQ and reverb. Same here as well. Actually, we've used Satin on this one, which is just another saturation plugin from FabFilter. But yeah, nothing special in the processing. It's literally just yeah, saturate, EQ, distort, everything basically, which is the theme of this track.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the subs have got this SSL channel strip plugin, which to be fair,
With a low boost.
yeah, low boost basically, yeah, just to get the sub up. Everything else is pretty much at 12 o'clock. The compressing, like a very small amount of compression on there as well. But this has mainly just got a 2.5 dB boost at 80 hertz. Not sure what I'd to use this SSL, but it does sound really nice.
Yeah, sometimes on the group as well, it's nicer to use like a console type plugin instead of like a parametric EQ like Pro Q3 or whatever. Just has a bit more kind of character and tone to it. It does sound nice. We don't use it that much, to be fair, but just in some instances, it works. It works nicely.
Yeah, I tend to use that SSL channel strip more on vocals. To be honest, it's really good for vocals, and it's quite nice for drum group processing as well. And then we just added 3 dB of saturation on there. And we use this newfangled one a lot. It's like got a clipper built into it as well. It's really nice. Yeah, it's good plugin. Good group of plugins there. So yeah, that's the bass. And then to be fair, the most of this tune is just drums and bass, literally. The synths and the pads, which is rare for us, play a very minor role in this track. So it's more just in the intro. I think this is a Serum patch resampled, maybe. I think it's probably this patch, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so it's this patch here. This LD caliber patch, which has just been resampled using EFX fragments, which is another one of the Arturia effects, which gets used a lot by us, to be fair. Yeah, it's basically a granular delay, which has just loads of cool stuff on it. You can create some mad soundscapes and textures with this plugin. Would highly recommend it. So yeah, that's just literally a Serum patch run through that to create this kind of eerie atmosphere. Super quiet, but it's filtered down. I think it opens up, yeah. So yeah, literally 2 notes from a very simple Serum patch, run through that, creates a really cool sound effect. And then this is the same thing chopped, I think. Yeah, so again, same again, even with the atmospheres, we just use one sound and resampled it loads of times. And the nice thing about doing that is it just everything kind of gels really nicely because it's all roughly the same texture and kind of just the same sound source. So in terms of mix and stuff, it makes it a lot easier to mix.
The Beats warping algorithm there as well, so that's quite a nice trick in Ableton. Obviously, you've got multiple warp modes, but in the Beats one, you can sort of it basically turns into like a transient shaper, but you can choose what interval it kind of shapes. So where it says 1/16 there, we're essentially shortening the transients of every 16th, and that's quite fun just to get interesting new rhythms and grooves out of sounds you've already kind of processed. And we do that a lot, to be honest. And it's just again an easy way to add interest and variation into the tune with like 2 clicks.
Yeah, we use it a lot for basses as well.
Yeah.
And also the actual use of it when you're kind of using drum breaks and stuff. That's where you actually notice what it's actually meant to be used for. But yeah, it's a nice little sound design hack. So yeah, that's literally all of the sounds we've used for an intro and melody.
Yeah, quite nice sort of atmospheric wise there, to be honest. Like this tune is very much, a club tune, and it hits nice. But with our sound, we do quite like, music and atmospheres, whatever. So having that in the intro just again puts our stamp on it a little bit.
Yeah, there is an argument to be made that you don't even need it, but we just put it in anyway. I think, yeah, you could just put atonal kind of reverby effects in there, which a lot of people do. Because to be fair, yeah, you don't really need to have like a real strong musical theme for this sort of music, but we can't help ourselves basically. And then there's just one pad, which I think is just a sample. Okay, yeah. So this I think was the original sound that was in this track, because you can hear there's a very subtle melody happening here. It is quite atonal, but there is a melody happening, and then basically we mirrored that melody in the serum patch in the synth section. That's where that came from. I remember now. Yeah, it's quite a cool sample to be honest, but yeah, literally just looped up. This is pretty much the most wholesale loop you'll see us use in a track. Just pitched up 5 semitones. And then just the effects really after that, isn't it?
Yeah, literally. I mean, yeah.
This sort of music is probably more, this stuff is probably more important than the melodic stuff in this sort of music. I would say, like the kind of use of, again, the space and like panning and just like weird effects in the background, I would say makes this music more interesting.
Yeah, massively. Like the effects are key. Like if you don't have the effects in there, then it's quite hard to build up energy and create a good club tune. And in this case, we've used the same kind of rises and whatever throughout the track. So it's just easy to copy and paste it. You get instant energy, I guess. So maybe a bit lazy, but it works really well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we don't need to talk too much about FX sweeps, so everyone knows you need to use that stuff in electronic music. But yeah, there's quite a lot happening in here. And then I guess lastly, it's just the vocal, which, if you didn't know, says I need an insulin injection, which is a little tongue-in-cheek nod to the fact that I have got diabetes. That's why the tune is called 3C Roller. So there you go, a little fun fact. We actually used a what's the website called? There's a website basically.
Jokes.
What's it called?
I've forgotten what it's called, but it's funny.
Yeah, there's a website that we found basically where you can go on it and you can type in a phrase and it will basically search like every TV show and film show from the history of time and find you all of those shows where it says that phrase, and then you can basically just record it out. It's really sick. I can't remember what it's called, but like for like getting little vocal samples for music is really powerful. So yeah, I think I must have just typed in something about insulin and then found this vocal from a film.
Well, I need an insulin injection.
There was actually an effect on here, little older boy, but I don't have it on my new Mac, so that's why it's not working. But yeah, it was a lot more wet than that. But yeah, that was just like a little Easter egg we put in there. And that gave us the name of the tune, 3C Roller. So I guess those are kind of all the individual elements. And in terms of arrangement, yeah, I mean, what is there to say, really? Kind of, oh, wait, the second drop, I forgot. The second drop, we actually did add a second drop in this tune. It's different to the first one. So you can kind of see, just if we look at this kind of view of the project, it looks like there's a lot more happening in the first drop, because obviously we're kind of progressing it all the way to the breakdown. And the reality is, with this sort of music, you're very rarely going to get to the second drop of a track because DJs always mix it out. But we decided to add a second drop here just because we had some more cool sounds to use. I'll just play it. Oh, I've got this. So,
well, I need an insulin injection.
So yeah, it is quite different. I'm trying to find the new sounds.
Rago. I think it's in Rago. I think it's the aggressive LFO jump uppy synth. We've just kind of again.
Yeah.
Literally just slowed down the LFO and put some more processing.
Yeah, so like the chord and response is completely different in this version. So we've used the second 16 bass, which is that really choppy one, plus this new kind of LFO Rago bass to create a whole new groove. So yeah, it kind of sounds super different to the first drop. Versus or even this. So yeah, again, nice variation on the theme. And to be fair, if you do, it's quite nice. It's like a reward for the listener or the club goer. If someone does actually decide to play it all the way through, then yeah, they're kind of rewarded with a whole new version of the track, basically. Which yeah, we don't always do, but we decided to do it for this version. But in terms of the drums, I think the arrangement's the same for the drums. Yeah, I think that's just been copied and pasted over, really. I think the big variation is really just in the bass sound. And then it's pretty much just a straight rollout for the rest of the tune. So yeah, anything else to add there?
No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, we've got I guess the key thing just to take away is that obviously once you've got the strong core idea there, you don't have to get too crazy with developing that idea. And just being creative with resampling and arrangement, you can end up expanding that 16-bar loop into a whole tune, but quite comfortably. I think it's quite easy to get bogged down in loops. But if you just kind of take it in take a structured approach to it and yeah, experiment within those boundaries, like I think you'll end up with a decent tune for sure. Yeah, just chuck loads of random textures in there for fun as well.
Yeah, and I think obviously as well, I'd say simplicity is key as well. I think we struggled for a long time with trying to add too much to these sorts of tracks. Obviously our normal style of track is quite layered and quite built up, but with this sort of music, it's really about impact. And simplicity is the best way to achieve that. So yeah, taking one idea and just flipping that idea several different ways, I think is the best way to achieve that. Like you can have all this kind of sound design and like crazy basses, but ultimately it'll get too cluttered if you try and use all of them. So coherency is key, I would say. And then just in terms of mix, I mean, you saw on each channel, we were just really keeping to the basics. So just making sure the transients were hitting nicely. The relationship between the drums and the bass was nice and balanced. Did we even use a sidechain? Yeah, so, just things like sidechaining the kick to the bass, saturating where needed, distorting where needed. What's that?
Sub in mono as well there.
Yeah, make sure the sub's in mono. Yeah, no grand mix secrets really. Just good sound selection and making sure things sit in the right places. So yeah, obviously if you've got any more questions about that, then feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or whatever. But yeah, hopefully that's provided some useful insight into how we approach making this track, which is out now on Shogun Audio 3C Roller. Cool. Cheers.